Americans are furious at Democrats for completely mishandling the U.S. border crisis. And you know who else is furious at Democrats? Democrats! Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. The U.S. border crisis is insane. So many illegal migrants are coming in that they're sleeping in airports, schools, many makeshift shelters, and cages. Oops, I meant migrant detention centers. That's what Obama and Biden used. Trump was the one who put kids in cages. Under President Joe Biden's leadership, the U.S. southern border is seeing record numbers of border encounters, which in turn further clogs U.S. immigration courts and puts progressive sanctuary cities at a breaking point. So it's no surprise that immigration has surpassed inflation as the top concern among American voters in a recent Harvard-Capps-Harris poll. Besides, of course, giant spiders. Now, many on the left label those sounding the alarm of mass illegal migration as white nationalists, xenophobes, extreme MAGA Republicans, and of course, fascist and Nazi. Because that's what we call anyone with a different opinion these days. You don't think it's a big deal Margot Robbie didn't get an Oscar nomination for Barbie? Wow, I didn't recognize you without your mustache, Adolf. But it turns out most Democrats have had enough. I've covered in previous episodes how progressive sanctuary cities like New York City and Chicago, despite virtue signaling about welcoming illegal immigrants, have turned on them. So-called sanctuary cities are now restricting how immigrants can come in and sending them off to other states or even entirely different countries. You know, like a sanctuary would. Remember all those stories of religious sanctuaries where people showed up on their doorstep and were told, "Have you tried Canada?" If you want to learn more about this, I'll leave a link below. Democratic leaders like Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson blame their woes on Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott, saying he's causing chaos for busing illegal migrants from Texas to sanctuary cities. Because what does he think a sanctuary is? Some kind of place of refuge or safety? Where did he get that bright idea from? The dictionary or something? But many residents reject blaming Abbott for the migrant crisis. Instead, they're blaming Democratic leaders, including U.S. President Joe Biden, for mishandling the migrant crisis. Things have gotten so out of hand that Chicago's black Democrats, the people you'd most expect to be loyal to Democrats, because if they don't vote for Joe Biden, then they ain't black, are suing Democratic leaders over migrants. I'll tell you more after the break. Welcome back. Democrats are facing major backlash from their own supporters, especially in Chicago. Residents have lost faith, believing that their own leaders are prioritizing illegal migrants over their own constituents. Kata Truss, a Chicago resident who once supported Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and his progressive allies, told the Free Press, "There's a humanitarian crisis in the black community. But every time we have a need in our community, we're told that there are no funds. There's no money for us." But to be fair, when have Democrats ever promised to help minority communities in an effort to be elected into office, didn't keep that promise once elected, then promised to actually do it if you vote for them again, over and over in an endless cycle? So when residents heard that Mayor Johnson suddenly had enough money to house illegal migrants, they took that as a slap in the face. Although that's actually optimistic, because if it were a slap in the face, that would imply Johnson actually paid any attention to them in a non-election year. This is why many pushed back on Johnson's plan to house migrants in places like Brighton Park, Morgan Park, and Amundsen Park.
You want to take the little scrap, the resources that we have, and put us at the bottom of the barrel? That's not fair.
We ain't having that, no. You want to tell us what to do in our park? You cannot do that.
And what I want to say is to Mayor Brandon Johnson, we are disappointed in you. This is the community that supported you. How dare you?
It's not just that people want to avoid dealing with illegal migrants. Many see efforts to house migrants as coming at the cost of resources that could otherwise go to residents for things like community centers and programs, or fighting spiders. Many residents point out how children in low-income neighborhoods need community centers and public facilities to keep kids out of trouble and have them grow up with community leaders who serve as role models. Have these politicians never seen a kids' movie from the 90s? The plot to literally all of them is needing to save the community center for the kids. These leaders have become 90s children's movie levels of evil. Critics also point out that residents either don't want to or simply can't go elsewhere for community programs when the city builds migrant shelters. This in turn not only hurts minorities, but also immigrant families already residing in the U.S. That's why Kata Truss, along with her neighbors, rushed to sue Chicago last October to stop it from creating a migrant shelter in Amundsen Park. Because the real American dream isn't coming here to seek a better life, it's suing anyone who's wronged you into oblivion. And they aren't alone. The city of Chicago is now facing 7 lawsuits, at least 3 of them filed by people of color, all bound by a concern that their leaders would rather serve the migrants than their own vulnerable citizens. One of the people suing is J. Darnell Jones, a DEI consultant. He's suing to stop the city's plans to turn an old South Shore high school into a migrant shelter. Wait, doesn't DEI stand for diversity, equity, and inclusion? I guess they didn't clarify what kind of diversity and who gets to have equity and be included. And what he and other black Democrats have to say about the migrant crisis terrifies Democrats. I'll tell you more after the break. Welcome back. Black voters are upset at their own leaders, but what J. Darnell Jones has to say about the big guy himself is the last thing Democratic leadership wants to hear. Well, second to last thing, behind the winner of the 2024 presidential election, Donald Trump, and his vice president, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Jones specifically calls the migrant crisis a Biden policy, saying Biden is allowing the borders to remain open. They say it's Abbott, but these migrants couldn't even be getting through if it wasn't for Biden. Black voters blaming Biden for the migrant crisis is tough to hear, especially with the 2024 election coming up. But things have gotten so bad that the migrant crisis is leading many Democrats to turn on their own party. It's almost like never fulfilling your promises makes people angry and want to leave you. So that's why my last 11 girlfriends broke up with me. Some Democratic voters are now considering sitting out the 2024 election rather than voting for Biden. And get this, some are even thinking of voting for Donald Trump. Yes, you heard me. Some black Democrats, even those who have never voted Republican, are now thinking of voting for Trump, of all people. I'm sure we'll soon hear Trump's critics complain about how black Americans are the new face of white supremacy. Oh wait, it's already happened. So would that be white supremacy wearing blackface or black Democrats wearing whiteface? Either way, it makes them Nazis. More and more black voters feel like their voices aren't being heard from Democratic leaders, including Biden, and the data shows it. According to an October 2023 New York Times and Siena College poll, nearly a quarter of black voters would vote for Trump. This is a wild shift away from 2020, when Biden won with 92% of black voters, who wanted everyone to know they were definitely black. In fact, Trump is poised to win more black votes in 2024 than any Republican in history. Well, that actually already happened in the 2020 election, which led to strange mental gymnastics like this headline: Black men shift slightly toward Trump in record numbers. To add further insult to injury, black voters aren't the only demographic Biden has to worry about. He's also losing Hispanic voters and pushing them to support Trump. I wouldn't be surprised if Biden and the Democratic Party also started losing Asian American voters, given that many of them, especially in New York City, see the migrant crisis as one of the top issues concerning them. Democrats have essentially lost the working class by advancing policies that let too many illegal migrants get away with working in the U.S. This leads to these illegal migrants taking on jobs at much lower rates than legal residents, causing problems in the job market. Unsurprisingly, not a lot of minorities in the working class appreciate that. So Democrats need to do something fast. It's literally gotten so bad that Democrats are now the ones yelling, "They took our jobs!" As one black Democrat told the Free Press, "You can't just assume you're going to get our vote if you continue to not serve us. We're not doing that anymore." It's a warning that some Democrats are taking to heart. Former New York governor and unpunished grandma serial killer Andrew Cuomo wrote an op-ed warning Democrats that the migrant issue is creating mayhem across the country and showing the ineffectiveness and schisms in the Democratic Party. Cuomo also warned that Republicans busing migrants from border states to blue cities only serves to highlight the Democrats' failure to anticipate the consequences of Biden's border policies and continuing failure to fashion a workable solution. We cannot wager that citizens will vote against Trump, but rather give them a reason to vote for Democrats. We must make the positive case for a Democratic future. Wow, Cuomo was quite willing to admit that Biden's border policies have done a lot of damage. I'm surprised he didn't try and say that his grandma-killing COVID policies were a 9D chess move to make more room in nursing homes to house incoming migrants. In Biden's defense, whether he knew it or not, he even admitted that the border isn't secure.
Do you believe that the border is secure, sir?
No, it's not. I haven't believed it for the last 10 years.
Maybe that's why he put all those kids in cages. Oops, I meant migrant detention centers. As you can see here, they're completely different from Trump's. 2024 is going to be a very interesting year, which is why, in case YouTube bans America Uncovered, I've created a new show called Deep Thoughts While Gaming to hide controversial topics in gaming content. Check out the latest about a game with Pokemon with guns. Check it out. And hit that orange button to support the show on Patreon. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.